Well, Eddie, we saw the latest masterpiece from the Riyadh season team drop this week. The Terence Crawford, Israil Madrimov promo. What a way to sell a fight.
Yeah, I mean, Riyadh season knows how to roll out the promos, whether it was Day of Reckoning, whether it was AJ against Ngannou with the Street Fighter vibes, Fury Usyk, and now a brilliant promo for a brilliant fight. You know, one of the biggest fights of the year, probably the best card American boxing's ever seen, August 3rd in Los Angeles, and only 3 weeks to go today.
Is Israil Madrimov being overlooked in this fight? I know a lot of the talk is on Terence Crawford.
Israil Madrimov was being massively overlooked. I mean, I actually sent His Excellency a message yesterday, and I said, I'm really sorry to ruin your plans for Terence Crawford, because all people are talking about is what happens next. Canelo Alvarez, Boots Ennis. But Israil Madrimov, I think, is the toughest test so far of his career. Up at 154 pounds. He's a huge light middleweight, super welterweight, punches very, very hard, has tremendous movement, good boxing IQ, outstanding amateur pedigree as well. This is a real fight, and we like our spot in this fight. Overlooked, the underdog, but with Uzbek power, and he's ready to knock Terence Crawford out in Los Angeles.
40 have tried, 40 have failed. How does the dream go about toppling Crawford?
He has to be smart with it, but he has to use his assets, his movement, his angles, his power as well. But listen, Crawford's an outstanding fighter. Make no mistake, Israil Madrimov is a big underdog in this fight, but he's a live underdog. Someone that is very comfortable and confident in that ring, believes in himself, believes that victory is upon him. Great team of people as well, and a whole country behind him. I mean, every time Israil Madrimov goes home, he's like a prince, but this is going to turn him into the king in Uzbekistan, and the whole country is behind him, ready for August 3rd.
Speaking of Uzbekistan, that promo did sort of hark back to what he came through and both fighters and the struggles they've been through. In terms of how Madrimov's life would change after this fight, should he win, how do you
I think Terence Crawford's pound for pound number one. So when you beat the pound for pound number one, are you pound for pound number one? You know, as we said, Madrimov already world champion, huge star in Uzbekistan. People know about him in the States. Of course, victory on the Riyadh season event in Riyadh as well was a great platform for him. But, you know, beyond that, it's this is the one that takes him global. This is the fight that turns Israil Madrimov into a superstar.
And with all of Bud's accolades, it is quite easy to forget still that he is in fact the challenger in this fight. He's obviously moving up to 154 in a bid to become a 4-division world champion. That's
what I'm saying. You know, I remember Terence Crawford's first ever victory as a world champion was on my show in Glasgow. It was 135 pounds. He won a world championship there. He moved to 140, beat another one of our fighters, Julius Ndongo, to become undisputed at 140 pounds. He moved to 147, became undisputed at 147. Now he's moving to 154. Sooner or later, it's too much. It's too much size. And I think when you're fighting someone who is a big 154-pounder with huge power, that's when you're going to get found out. And as I said, the underdog going into this fight, but I think this is the toughest fight of Terence Crawford's career so far.
When he boxed Ricky Burns back in 2014, did you know that he was special back then?
Yeah, we heard. I mean, actually, the defeat from Ricky Burns looks like a great performance now. I think it was 115, 113 twice. And Terence was just a young kid back then. You know, he somersaulted when his name got read out for victory, and you could tell he was a special talent. But people have been talking about Crawford for years and years. But what he's done since then, generational great. You know, he will already go down as a great. But at some point when you move through the divisions, one of those steps is just a step too far.
A side note to the show, it's a huge card as it is, but in terms of other stars in the show, firstly, are you an Eminem fan?
Yeah, I am actually. You know, I mean, you might not think it looking at me, but I love Eminem. And yeah, this is just part and parcel of what Riyadh season does and His Excellency. You know, I'm in on those conversations where they're talking about who can perform. I mean, you've already got the best boxing card I think the country's ever seen. And now you want to add one of the biggest recording artists of all time to the show? I believe Eminem is going to perform three tracks. The place is going to go crazy. And, you know, these Riyadh season cards, they add fights that sometimes as a promoter you think we actually don't need those fights. But they just want to make it an event and a day that will be appreciated, seen and viewed by everybody around the world. And if you're in Los Angeles, it's going to be the hottest ticket in town.
And just back to the boxing quickly, I know it goes without saying it's a huge card top to bottom, but we can just go through them one by one and start with Andy Ruiz and Jarrell Miller as simply a must-win fight for both.
So I think Andy Ruiz against Jarrell Miller is a brilliant fight. I mean, firstly, Andy Ruiz, everybody knows Andy Ruiz, defeated Anthony Joshua at Madison Square Garden, you know, and has been looking for that big fight since. Been out for a little bit of time. I actually think, speaking to Bozy Ennis, who's got Jarrell Miller in camp, if you look at pictures of him, he's looking in really, really good shape. And that's something that's sort of, been a problem for him in the past, is that shape, is that conditioning. I actually think this is a really, really tough fight for Andy Ruiz. It's going to be all action. Jarrell Miller always on the front foot, always comes to fire. And Andy's a very sharp counter-puncher as well, but he's been out of the ring for a long time. There's going to be huge support for him in Los Angeles, but he better have the hunger in his belly for this fight, because otherwise he'll get overrun by Jarrell Miller.
And boxing's a funny game, isn't it? Just talking about that fight. In a roundabout way, there were two men who kind of really shaped the division back in 2019 with the Joshua fight.
Yeah, I mean, Jarrell Miller pulls out of the fight, Andy Ruiz steps in, AJ suffers his first defeat, and now they're fighting each other. So it's a big fight for the heavyweight division, and you're seeing these great matchups in the heavyweight division now where the contenders are facing each other. And I think it's great for the sport, not just to have guys fighting for the world heavyweight title, but the top contenders in the division fighting each other.
Another big heavyweight fight, Jared Anderson, Martin Bakole. This could be a pretty brutal fight for both.
I think this is dangerous matchmaking. Brilliant, by the way. I mean, as a fan, I don't represent Martin Bakole or Jared Anderson, so therefore I love it. This is one of the fights on the card I cannot wait for. I think a pure 50-50 heavyweight matchup. Jared Anderson, people are very, very high on him in the States. If you look at young heavyweight prospects coming through, he's kind of like the pick of the bunch in terms of the American prospects that's already got a big name. I know His Excellency's a big fan. Jared's an ambassador for Riyadh season, but I'm not sure this is good matchmaking. Martin Bakole, everybody knows he is a legitimate top 10 heavyweight. There is no doubt about it. If he's fit and if he's got the cojones for it, I think it's a very tough night's work for Jared Anderson. A very, very tough fight. Either brilliant matchmaking or a terrible mistake.
As we're talking right now, we are in Philadelphia, just training down the road in Boots Gym is your man, Andy Cruz.
Yeah.
Amateur sensation. He's coming through his fourth fight against Antonio Moran now. How far is the diamond going to go off in terms of world?
I think this is the perfect platform for Andy Cruz. I think you're talking about a pound-for-pound star. A good step up against Antonio Moran, who's always in good fights. Mexican, going to have big support in Los Angeles as well. The kind of fight where Andy Cruz is going to shine. Moran will come to fight and bring the best out of Andy Cruz, but probably this fight and maybe one more, and then Andy Cruz is ready to fight for the World Championship at 135 pounds.
All Mexican war next. Isaac Cruz, Jose Valenzuela. Again, another brutal.
Yeah, this is another brilliant fight. I mean, they're all incredible fights, but this one, Isaac Pitbull Cruz becoming one of the biggest stars in American boxing. Again, going to be huge support for him in Los Angeles. And I think that this fight is a tough one. Valenzuela's a crafty, clever fighter that can fight in spates as well. Can fight on the inside, fight on the outside. But Pitbull Cruz, strong, exciting. He's a real pound-for-pound potential fighter, but a pay-per-view potential fighter as well. All action. And when you saw him fight on the Tim Tszyu card, the whole arena was going nuts for Pitbull Cruz. And that's going to be a very, very good fight.
And just finally, David Morel, light heavyweight action against Hot Rod. Could a victory propel him potentially against the winner of Bivol Cruz?
David Morel, again, I think he's pound-for-pound quality. And I think everybody in boxing knows how good he is. Probably vastly avoided. And Hot Rod, if you've ever seen him fight, just does not stop coming to war. Morel moving from 68 to 75. We'll see how that works out for him. But Hot Rod, a good, strong, solid, honest 175 world-class fighter that will test David Morel. But Morel is a bit special. I mean, pound-for-pound greats on this card. Incredible matchups. Thrown in with a little bit of Eminem. Riyadh season, August 3rd. It's going to be unforgettable.
The show as a whole is one thing, but all in all, is this genuinely one of the best cards ever we've seen?
Without doubt. I mean, firstly, you've got the pound-for-pound number one, Terence Crawford, trying to become a 4-division world champion against Israil Madrimov, who I think is the best 154-pounder in the world. That's a great fight. You've got Pitbull Cruz, one of the biggest stars in America, in an all-Mexican matchup. You've got two brilliant 50-50 heavyweight fights, Andy Ruiz against Jarrell Miller and Jared Anderson against Martin Bakole. Throw in Andy Cruz, throw in David Morel. I mean, it's a card littered with talent. Throw in Eminem. I think this is the biggest night American boxing seen for a long, long time. It's going to be a brilliant crowd in the stadium. We can't wait to get there for fight week. All the activities. It's going to completely blow your mind. So whatever you do, make sure you get yourself to the BMO Stadium in Los Angeles August 3rd for an incredible, historic night. And if not, tune in live on DAZN around the world.
Eddie, just a few weeks away. We look forward to it. Thanks for your time.
Cheers.